Just give me 1 second, Ashika. Hello, sorry about that. Just had a confusion regarding which account they're using. Okay, let me start sharing my screen again. All right, perfect. So today we're just going to go through again the Unit 4 Leadership and Management, but today we're going to focus on learning outcome number 3, which is how to develop a motivational strategy to optimize organizational performance. So we spoke about motivation and leadership yesterday, and how also we spoke about how leadership and management roles are taken care, and how basically managers help to push their associates, and higher management leadership or senior leadership, how they impact the organization as well. Now, in today's session, we're going to focus on motivation more and also go through a couple of theories of motivation. We have a lot of slides to go through today, but it's going to be quicker because a few of the slides have some information that I can quickly explain instead of taking so long. But yeah, it'll be a longer session maybe. Gonna try to get it done. So basically, we're gonna talk about motivation. So in motivation, what do you like what when I just talk about it in layman language or in simpler words, when someone asks me what motivation is, I would say that it would be something that people do or someone does because of, specific thoughts or actions that come to their head, or some factor because of which they're pushing themselves to basically do better. So motivation can come in many forms. For example, I've started going to the gym. So that's my motivation to basically, get fitter in this year. So that motivation wasn't there in the last many years, but it started suddenly now. So it can be due to many factors that play as well. Maybe now I've been realizing that since I'm going old, I need to take care of my health more. Or, since I'm seeing that it actually makes my body feel good, it helps with my stress. So there are many reasons because of which you're motivated to do certain things. So when you're looking at it from an organization's perspective, there are many reasons or factors that play, basically an influence on how the associates perform. So if a particular associate, for example, someone who's recently joined the organization, they're very enthusiastic, they're motivated to keep doing better. And after probably 1 or 2 years of working, their spark is dimmed. So you might have to understand what are the reasons that, they're less motivated now, or what are the reasons because of which now they aren't that enthusiastic as they were before, or vice versa. So there can be many reasons because of that. We're going to be talking about performance management and competitive advantage of here. So basically, this explains that if you manage the organization's performance well, remember we spoke about performance management yesterday. So we spoke how it's important to basically look on how it's been implemented. So basically, you think of a plan, how do you implement it? And then you also make sure that you continuously see if it's going correct or not, or if you have to make modifications. So you're managing how the output of the work is coming out, as well as managing the performance of your associates in the organization. And that essentially explains that it gives the organization a competitive advantage. So it can be basically because, in a specific operation that they're doing it better because they're managing the performance of associates well. And also, it basically helps in just pushing the organization towards success and towards the organizational goals. Now, it also says that we need to focus on the stakeholder expectations. So that is why also we need to manage performance and align with the organization's goals, because our customers, investors, employees, everyone is dependent on this. All right. So the organization has to work hard to basically make sure that they're getting the correct revenue in return and push through towards their, the visions and goals, everything that they've set for themselves. So hope that's clear. Please stop me, Shika, if you have any doubts, okay? Now we're going to talk about a few theories on motivation. So we're going to mention the McGregor theory. There are a few more things that we're going to go through. But yeah, this is just a chart that explains various theories that can be part of motivation. Obviously, there might be not one theory for every organization. There might be also a mix of theories that few organizations use. So, but these are just few examples or generic theories about motivation. In real life, while you implement it, it might be much difficult. So this is the McGregor's theory X and theory Y. Basically, this theory believes that associates, or basically theory X in the McGregor theory, believes that the associates in this theory X are, they are not motivated to do their job. They're quite lazy. They're laid back. And, they don't even do their job well because they're not responsible and not trustworthy. So that's why these kind of associates in theory X, the managers need to micromanage them. They need to be controlled and properly observed so that they're not making any mistakes or not doing something wrong. Whereas in the McGregor's theory Y, what is believed that associates are really highly skilled at their job. They love doing their job very well. And they are motivated by many factors. So therefore, the managers don't need to properly supervise them and don't need to keep an eye on them full time. They can let them have the independence of doing their job the way they want to do it. So this was the X and the Y theory over here. But what essentially are these theories saying is that what style of management do you then adopt? So basically, every organization has a mix. There are few theory X associates, few theory Y associates. So which style of management are you going to adapt based on this mix of associates that you have? And then they also make sure that financial incentives or financial rewards are placed because they feel that motivates people the most. So if you're being told that, oh, you're going to be paid more if you do this task, you might be more excited to get the task done, or you push yourself more harder just because they're paying you more. So rewards, or basically financial rewards, is a really good motivating factor over here. Whereas in theory Y, they say that because they're already good at what they do, they like to do their job. So what style of management then what style of management would you follow then? So you'll basically have, staff will be able to make their own decisions, and they know that because they already are good at their job, they are being paid well. So financial reward might not really influence them a lot because they already like their job or they like what they're doing. So maybe in some other form they are compensated, maybe like I mentioned, those point system, there's something like that. Or maybe they are given an award of being a very dedicated associate. There might be not financial awards as well that help them or motivate them. So then we are looking at the financial methods of motivation. So what happens in this is, it says that managers are responsible for essentially motivating the associates that are under them, all right? And they do that with a mix of motivating factors. It can be financial or non-financial motivating factors that essentially managers use to achieve that. So if you're looking at just financial motivating factors, it can be, time rate. So basically, how many hours or they're paid hourly. So if they come and work for 7 hours today, you're getting paid for 7 hours. Obviously, if you're working for 10 hours, you're getting paid more. So it depends on you how many hours you want to put in your job. And then piece rate, sometimes when they're producing something, for example, they're making, I don't know, a cake. Okay. So if you're a baker and you're working in, a very large organization and they're paying you piecewise, basically on per cake basis. So obviously you will push yourself to make more cakes in one day so that you're paid more. So basically, you will in turn increase the productivity or want or push yourself to bake more cakes so that at the end of the day, when you're looking at it, since you're getting paid piecewise, it is going to be more than. So that can be one of the motivating factors as well, which is obviously financial. Then you're looking at commission. For example, when houses are sold, when these real estate agents sell houses, they obviously get a commission in return on every house that they've sold. So that motivates them to essentially sell to more people so that they get more profits in the end. Then you also have performance related pay. Basically, if you're performing really well, you're doing good, your output is nice, at the end of the year, you might get a bonus or you might get some form of financial incentive or your salary percentage might increase. So that might be performance related pay. Then obviously we spoke about what bonuses, getting a fair salary is important as well for associates to work hard, and profit sharing. So sometimes what happens is organizations opt this. They say that we won't pay you a bonus every year, but instead, if the company makes a profit of 5% more than what it did before, that 5% will go to their associates, all of the associates. So if the company does better, if you basically from the start do your job properly and push the company to do better, then maybe what you receive as profits in the end of the year that the company get might be more than what you would receive in bonus as well. So that's why they opt one of the techniques called profit sharing. Now they're going to talk about the non-financial methods of motivation. So there can be flexible working practices. So basically, if it's a new mother, she is struggling anyways because she has a newborn child that she has to take care of. And she also has to work full time because she has to basically, um, pay for the child's expenses and stuff. So in such a scenario, you would essentially want to offer a flexible working request or approve the flexible working request of the mother. So her request might be that I want to work from home so that I can also take care of my child while working. And I might take a 1 hour break in the middle because I want to take care of my child and put him to sleep. Some requests like that. Or there might be part-time working or home working completely. So there can be few working practices that, can help in non-financial incentives or ways of motivation, because basically that mother will see that, all right, the company understands that I don't or I can't afford child support. That's why I need to work from home and, be the sole earning member. She's a single mother, for example. And then um, she would appreciate that they gave her a flexible time so that she can work at the same time, take care of her kid. So, and she will push that back or put that back in terms of working hard for the organization. But yeah. And then again, flexible working practices, we spoke about that. It can be the working environment wherein, sometimes an office environment makes a huge change on the way the productivity or the way associates work as well. So there can be many reasons because of which productivity is influenced. If you have a happy or a positive working atmosphere where everyone is motivated to work hard, maybe your productivity is higher. Whereas if you have a very dull atmosphere wherein, everyone's sulking, no one actually enjoys what they're doing, maybe you won't get that much output out of your associates as you desire. Then obviously, motivating them to work harder by giving them trainings if they want to learn something new and they say, you know what, I want to learn this software called Power BI and it's really interesting. So maybe my managers or my company sends me on a training course, approved through a good organization, so that I get an extra certificate, as well as, it helps them as well. So I'm motivated to work harder. Then they also have promotion and recognition. So maybe because of your hard work, they recognize that you need to get a promotion soon, and they understand that. And that's why, just because you recognize, you're really excited and happy that, you're getting promoted, and you might want to prove your managers that, all right, since you got a promotion, you actually deserved it. So you might want to, you would work harder and push through more in terms of your output. So these are some of the ways in which non-financial incentives also help to basically motivate your associates into working hard and giving better outputs in the organization. You have worker participation. So, just encourage associates that they are heard, their suggestions are taken on board. You have different other types of benefits, like maybe, a gym membership, health insurance, and then you have job enrichment, which basically means that you are working, for example, an IT job, which is really getting, you feel it's repetitive and it's not that interesting to do every day. So maybe you go to your manager and be like, can I get some additional, or can my work be a mix of a few things, so that at the end of the day, I'm not doing the same task, but actually I'm doing a mix of a few different tasks. So it basically enhances my experience on doing my job better. And then job rotation. So this happens usually in factories wherein, you're producing a good. So they usually do job rotation. For example, you are good at wrapping the product. So you are in packaging or wrapping for, 2 months, but then you are sent back to, I don't know, putting the caps on the bottles, for example. So you're sent back, or you're rotated in terms of what job you're doing, so that again, you're not bored by doing the same job again and again. And also because you have an experience of doing all the processes in the basically production process. So it doesn't matter where you're put, because you have an experience of all. Now, this is about leadership style. I already explained these leadership styles yesterday in yesterday's lecture. Essentially, we spoke about transformational leadership, transactional, situation, laissez-faire, and centered leadership as well. But these slides have a few leadership styles. I'm going to still quickly just explain it. Now, what is situation leadership? So basically, in this style of leadership, what happens is the leader basically has a lower focus in the start, but when the associates are participating or basically doing their tasks, or understanding, learning their task, the leader coaches them or basically explains the task to them. And then later again, so the arrow that's mentioned over here essentially is the relationship focus, wherein how much focus does the leader put on their specific associates when they're, maybe starting to instruct them, and when, they're actually doing their tasks. So when it's task focused, then, the concentration is the highest. And then again, when they're giving them work or assigning them, delegating them, then the leaders do trust their associates, because then again, they have a lot of confidence that their associates are going to do well. So that's why they look at, leaving them, or basically look at delegating the task to them and then letting them do their task, because they do trust them. So it's basically, this type of leadership is essentially a relationship oriented type of leadership, wherein the leader essentially sees that, having a flexible approach is better. And he doesn't just use one single style of leadership. He basically keeps changing it. So sometimes he is highly focused. He's completely managing you, explaining you everything. And then he starts, realizing that you can do the task yourself. Once you give him that confidence, he's going to start delegating work. Let the work be so that you can keep doing that. After assigning it to you, he trusts that you will complete the work. Then we spoke about these few types of leaderships as well. So this is essentially autocratic leadership, wherein all of the decisions are taken by the higher management. They don't involve the associates in how they feel. Then we have paternalistic, wherein the managers make the decisions, but after asking or having a talk with with their associates. And then the democratic style, which is the workers or the employees essentially make their own decisions, and the managers are just listening to associates essentially. Now, in this style of leadership, it helps in quick decision making, whereas this is better in having a two-way communication. And democratic is wherein just the workers are deciding everything, so they're motivated into giving better suggestions or working harder. Now, obviously, there are disadvantages of all. So in this, obviously, we know there is no two-way communication. This paternalistic basically slows down decision-making because you're talking to associates, you're asking if they're fine with it, then you're implementing it, then again, they give you suggestion and feedback, and you keep going back and forth. And then democratic says that because the associates have the anonymity, sometimes it might be that they might not be always taking the right decisions, because they might think in their head that they're really skilled and confident, but that might not actually be true. Now we're going to talk about operational management. So I'm going to explain you what operations management theory is and how does it essentially help. So basically, operations management theory, what it does is it helps the organization to just increase its productivity. And it just basically, so there is a specific way in which, for example, if a good has to be produced or manufactured, how does that happen? There's a proper set of ways, or, an entire operation management system that essentially looks at that. But what operational management does is it designs and it basically controls how the goods are produced and how the services and goods are essentially produced, so that with the limited resources that the organization has, it gives out the best output for their customers. For example, if you have, if you're making potato chips and you have, good quality potatoes, you have a good, oil in which you can fry, vegetable oil or some specific oil, or, the seasoning that's required, the packaging that's required for you to produce those chips packets. All of that is really important. So operation management essentially looks at every ingredient that you have, in what way or in what flow the ingredients need to be gone through, or how is it supposed to be cooked or prepared. And then it looks like how the packaging is supposed to be done, how everything is measured. Everything is done by operation management. And it basically does this in the way that it is the highest efficiency, and the production is, the rate of production is really high, as well as it doesn't compromise the good in terms of, the taste, the feel of the good, etc. So it explains the entire process essentially. Again, I explained you what operations management is. It basically designs the entire system that creates the product for the customers. Now, obviously, this is just explaining why operation management is important. Again, I explained that to you. Now, I'm going to explain the 6 Sigma strategy. So the 6 Sigma strategy is basically, it is a business strategy. If I explain it to you very simply, it uses different sets of, tools and, different methods essentially, so that if there's a specific process in the business, how it can improve that process. Or for example, if business is producing a specific good, how it can improve its quality. So the business process essentially can be improved by various ways. All right. It can be by, reducing the defects in the product, or, the errors that they're causing by reducing that. Um, and, shouldn't have a lot of variation in between their products, should be similar products, maybe in different flavors, and obviously increasing the quality and the efficiency of production. So how will you do that? By looking at proper operational management strategies, and essentially just making sure that you have your end result or end product to the customers really good. And basically the goal of this theory or Six Sigma is to achieve the perfect quality, basically, in terms of not having the least defects in your products, making sure all the products are identical, they taste the same, they look the same. If it's what I was talking about, the example chips, for example. So there are various ways in which Six Sigma is used, essentially. Now we're going to be talking about what lean production is. So lean production essentially is looking at cutting out waste. So I'll give you a proper example after I read the definition properly. So it looks at cutting out waste, but also ensuring the quality of the product. And this obviously can be, put in different perspective. So it essentially looks at, for example, if I'll take the first example that I took previously. You're making chips, okay? You have potatoes. And in this approach of management, it will look at reducing waste. So for example, if you're making chips, and the potatoes that you got from, for example, you got them from France, really good quality and stuff, but many of them are they are black, or basically they can't be used in production, so it's a waste. So in the future, management will basically see that how you can look at reducing this kind of waste. So basically, when you're importing them, maybe you already state or tell them that, all right, maybe last time I had a lot of waste, or a lot of the goods were not the top notch quality. So can you make sure that this time when you send me the potatoes, you send me the best quality, and also send me the most freshest potatoes, as I don't want it to go waste. So if it's fresher, and it might take some time for it to come once I import it, it'll still stay fresh for me to cook it. So this is essentially an approach to management that looks at reducing the waste um in the production process, but also making sure that the quality of the product remains the same. Then you have just in time. So again, just in time looks at basically producing goods that only come when it is needed. So sometimes what organizations do is they have bulk goods kept in their corridor, just remaining. But what just in time does is that the company will receive the goods as close as possible only when they need it. For example, if I'm looking at getting the potatoes, or if I'm looking at producing potatoes tomorrow, so maybe I will get the import of the goods just in time, which would be today or maybe tomorrow morning. So that's how close I will get the goods. And so that I don't waste time in storing them, or I don't waste time in assembling them, stuff like that. So as soon as it comes, they're usually used immediately, the products. So yeah, just explain what just in time was. So as I was talking, the advantage would be lower stock holding. So, I don't have storage space, that's why. And, I can basically produce my goods that I want to as and when I want to, instead of worrying about having to keep the goods, for example, potatoes, like the chips again. If it comes 10 days earlier, I would be stressing about it going rotten, because obviously after 10 days, some of the potatoes might not stay that fresh as they were before. So I have to check different factors in mind as well. Maybe that's why as well I decide to just order fresh produce on the last minute, or just in time when I need it for production. So, that can be an advantage. But again, disadvantages can be as the product is just coming before the production, it can be a possible that sometimes I might not get the right potatoes that I want to use, and then I don't have a lot of time in terms of replacing or finding it, so I might lag behind in my production. So that's just one of the disadvantage example. Now we're going to talk about what Kaizen is. So again, Kaizen is looking at, now this is actually a Japanese concept. So it's put in over here, but it's a Japanese concept, which refers to essentially business activities. So it looks at different business activities. And for example, if I'm producing soda and, I'm putting them in bottles, putting caps on them, putting the soda inside the bottles, how the entire process. Every activity, for example, putting the cap is an activity. Putting the label around the bottle is an activity. Filling the soda inside is an activity. Every activity, it looks at continuously improving that function, and for that all of the different employees come together in the entire line of workers come together to essentially explain or look at improving that specific task or that specific activity. And it says that every business continuously requires changes and upgrades. So because there are new technology in the market, every time there's something new coming up. So every business after a couple of, months or days needs to keep making improvements constantly to itself. So that itself is the concept of Kaizen. See, I mentioned small changes essentially. All right. Is everything clear as of now?
Yeah, it's clear.
No problem. If you have any doubts, please feel free to stop me.
Okay.
I think just like probably 10-15 minutes and this session should get done as well.
All right.
All right, so today we're going to also talk about the queuing theory. So queuing theory is essentially it examines on how, so okay, I'm just confused why queuing theory we put this in the middle. All right, yeah. So basically it shows that it essentially is taken or derived from the mathematical study or theory, which is basically the study of waiting in lines or in queues. Okay. So, how a specific queue is formed in terms of if someone's going to collect or buy a movie ticket. Yeah. So, you study how the queues are formed, or, what function do they follow and how do they do it. But so this is one of the theories, or basically it it is it is used in management to essentially just see or determine how staffing needs are required, and then how you also need to schedule the different shifts, or basically the staff that comes in, how to schedule them correctly. Then you also look at inventory, and how to improve customer service essentially. So for example, if you're looking at inventory, how queuing theory is used there, you might use the concept of first in first out, or last in first out. So it depends on which theory do you use in terms of your inventory. So the queuing theory essentially is how you arrange your tasks to get completed. And for example, in a production unit, how do you make sure that 100 items are produced of that specific product? And the way the entire process works in terms of the queues, how goods come in, which goods are used first, how the goods go out after getting produced and wrapped and ready to basically sold to the customers. So that essentially is queuing theory. Also, queuing theory would include looking at when the goods need to reach the customers. So when Prime was sold everywhere, the drink that is, the Prime drink that was really famous, what they used is the theory of making their customers wait on how quickly they receive the next set of or the next batch of products. That's why there was the prices of Prime went so high. What was happening is that people were so desperate to try this new drink, or, the hype was so high that, for example, over here in the UK, the prime bottle was for £2 or £2. And I remember getting it once, last year I also purchased it for £11. So that's how the prices were going up, and everyone wanted to just try and see how is it or how does it taste. So that's why that was one of the queuing theories that they used. Now, this is the total quality management theory, which essentially quite self-explanatory. It says that your product should be, up to the topmost quality. Errors or, different quality errors should be at the minimum. Very less errors should be there in your products. You can continuously improve your product so that, um, making production or management is not just deciding that, all right, this is the product, this is going to be sold in the market for 20-30 years. Yeah, it might work for some products, for example Maggie, but it doesn't always work in all products. So making some changes to your product in terms of different trends in the market or different styles in the market, that's an upgrade is always required. And then again, everyone who's producing the product is involved in essentially giving their input towards the product. So it can be customers, suppliers, it can be employees. So, they play a good role in essentially helping the quality management of the product. And obviously your manager should be committed and, should know that what is the quality you're looking at, so that they are conscious in terms of what products they are putting out in the market. Now, again, there are different factors that, influences imports and exports of your goods. So you can have different political and economical changes that have come up. So, sometimes, for example, if you have to send any product to India in terms of electronic products, they charge a very high custom rate. So it's 40% customs, which makes the product so expensive. Then you're looking at the, different environmental or social ways because of which product import or export can be hampered. There is, corporate reasons, technological reasons. There might be an issue with the supplier or in terms of operations and how the product needs to get to you. So there are various reasons because of which import and export can be hampered. So again, as we were talking about how decisions are made, how plans are put in place, you also worry about how operations are decided, or in terms of operational management, how is it done? So what we discussed in the starting of this lecture was what operations management is, right? So it's essentially producing, a flow in which the goods will be produced or how they will reach the output or the customers, essentially. So this is just a diagram explaining the same. You talk about what, in the marketplace, what you're looking at and the different strategies that you want to put in your business. Then which strategy works the best for you in terms of operation management. Then you decide the entire flow of the process, how it's going to be produced, who's going to get it first, how the materials come in, and how the planning and control is done. And then at the end, your end product, how does that reach the customers as well? So that entire process is the entire operations management process, essentially. Now, there are a few concepts of operation management which are important as well. So we obviously discussed this, but we have to talk about the efficiency in terms of, for example, you are producing 100 products every day, but which is not very efficient. If you produce 110 products every day, the efficiency will go up by 2%. So the way in which you can produce something at the lower cost is basically improving your efficiency. Now, how effective is creating that specific product in the organization? So, for example, if you have a production unit specifically to produce, chips in the previous example, for example, but you are trying to produce, I don't know, Coca-Cola in that production unit, it's obviously not going to work. So you need to see that how you are creating the most value for your organization by making the right goods and products as well. And also those goods and products should have a demand in the market, and so that your production is essentially more increasing, so that because your customers are demanding more. And then obviously your quality of the product should be really good, so that the customer should have a value of price that they're paying. So these just few important concepts as well. Now, this just explains us how the product is produced in terms of, in physical, there's manufacturing, then there's transportation, then, you can retail it in terms of selling the products. You have to store the products as well, and you have to check in terms of storage. Is there any specific requirements of storage? Looking at the healthcare, telecommunication, there's a lot that goes in essentially to produce your product. So this is just giving examples of different production systems. So I'll just take an example for example, the restaurant. So why or what drives a restaurant business is getting customers that are hungry for this specific food, having the correct chef, having the correct atmosphere, having the right, servers, and in terms of how to make the food, everything is correct. Then what you need to basically have important is how you prepare the food and serve it. So that's the most important thing, because that is how you're essentially getting paid. If you don't prepare the food well, or the food doesn't taste nice, your customers will not return to you. And also, if the way you present your food, you serve it, that plays an important role as well. And at the end, your output is essentially getting satisfied customers, or having customers coming to you again the next time, and essentially liking your food and wanting to, recommend your place to different people as well. So just taking an example of the restaurant, this is how the production system would work. Now, this is the last slide over here. Is everything clear as of now, Ishika?
Yeah, it's clear.
All right, so we're just reaching the last slide. Now, if you have any doubts, please ask me.
Okay.
Now you're looking at a few core factory services, which are always important in every, I would say, in every production unit. So the core services are few basic things that the customers would expect irrespective, from their product. So for example, if you're buying a simple chewing gum as well, you will expect certain things that it fulfills. So that's basic things that customers need from you. So for example, you will expect the quality to be right in terms of, you having to use this product in different ways, in different, having a flexibility to reuse it, have that might be there. Or for example, if you're buying, I mentioned chewing gum, you might be able to keep that box or keep that packet so that you can use the rest of the gums some other time. It gives you the satisfaction at the correct timing when you need it. And in terms of price, it is, in par to the other prices in the market, or essentially even maybe lower than the other gums in the market, so that, your production cost is at the minimum. So these are some few basic core services that customers do expect from when they produce or when they purchase their product. So that was actually the end of the lecture. Today we went through some basic bits in terms of motivation, and then we spoke about the operation management theory and also the different ways in which operation managements are done. And we spoke about different motivating theories in terms of, the theory XY, and we mentioned about leadership and management in the start as well. So hope this lecture was helpful. Do you have any doubts for me?
No.
Perfect. So I'll see you next week for the rest of the learning outcomes, okay?
Okay.
Thank you for your time, Ashika. Take care. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.